Hello there. Right. See who's in the chat. Hello there. Right. See who's in the chat. Hello there. Right. See who's in the chat. Why am I wearing my headphones? I don't need my headphones for this. Okay, see how my chat's doing on here. Okay, see how my chat's doing on here. Ah, good. People are saying hi. Right, okay. So, yeah. Thought it was about time I did this. Right, okay. I think any longer and I would have started forgetting most of the research I had to do for the 90s drivers. I think any longer and I would have started I'm hoping this time there isn't so much of a delay with comments because I changed the latency, because last time I remember having to wait like a good 30, 40 or seconds before people's responses would come in when I was talking, which didn't help much. Yeah, so I'll switch my screen over. Yeah, so I'll switch my screen over. Oh, I thought I did. I closed the tab, but never mind. Right, okay. So here we have the same tier list, same templates as before, although none of these really apply to 90s drivers so much. So obviously it's Goat, not bad for number 2 driver, Torpedo, Mid, Spinalla, Pay driver and Cucumber. Obviously we have no Webber, no Kvyat, no Vettel and no Kartikeyan, but you know it's more interesting than just, you know, A, B, C, D, blah blah blah. And yeah, here are the drivers, 106 of them, so this might take a little while because there was about 70 in the 2000s and 60 something in the 2010s. I need my chat to update because it's not showing up on here on my phone. In the 2010s, I need my chat to update because it's not showing up on here on my phone. There's an echo on the sound, right? Hold on one second. Let me think. Hold on one second. Let me think. What can I do to fix that? Hold on one second. What can I do to fix that? Sorry about this. Yeah, I'm really bad with technical. I was having problems with the audio before this started. Sorry about this. Yeah, I'm really bad with technical. I was having problems with the audio before this started. Sorry about this. Yeah, I'm really bad with technical. I was having problems with the audio before this started. Sorry about this. Yeah, I'm really bad with technical. Only. Okay, I've turned off down mix to mono. Does that improve it? Or turned off down mix to mono. Is that taken the echo off? Okay, I've turned off down mix to mono. Does that improve it? I'll put my headphones on again. Mix to mono. Is that taken the echo off? Okay, I've turned off down mix to mono. Does that improve it? I'll put my headphones on again. Mix to mono. Is that taken the echo off? I'll put my headphones on again. Yeah, I can hear that now. What's going on? That's quite bad. Yeah, I can hear that now. What's going on? That's quite bad. Yeah, I can hear that now. What's going on? That's quite bad. Yeah, I can hear that now. Oh well, this is going well. Let me think. Oh well, this is going well. Let me think. Oh well, this is going well. Let me think. Oh well, this is going well. What have I done wrong? Because the settings were the same from the last time I did a stream. Is it just a case of closing your tab with the stream running, or would that stop it? It might. I mean, for me, I'm here. I need that to hear, but... Oh! Right, I've closed that. So, is this better? I mean, I can't hear myself anymore, but yeah. Seems okay now, one person says. Okay, no more echo. Just wait a few more seconds. Echo's gone. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that and run with it. Okay, headphones off. I need to go back to sharing the screen again. Right. Just let my phone catch up so I can see on... Okay, right. Let's get going then. Now that that seems to be working. So, okay. 106 drivers. Arranged alphabetically again. So, first up is Philippe Adams. He, I actually had to Google before the stream started because I could not remember anything about him. And that's because he only did 2 races with Lotus in 1994. I'm going to say he was either 3 or 4. And yeah, Cucumber, Pale Cucumber. Yeah, he did. I mean, he spun off at Spa and then he finished the other race. It was at Estoril, but I think, to be honest, he did only a couple of races. I'm thinking either Pedro or Cucumber. I've seen a couple of there. So yeah, I think I'll just put him... I'll start him off with Cucumber, I think. Okay. Michele Alboreto. So complete opposite of this. Obviously a much more well-known driver, much more successful. So most of his career, the main bulk of it was in the 1980s. And he finished runner-up to Alain Prost in 85. But obviously that was in the 80s. In the 90s, he had his stints at Minardi, alongside Pierluigi Martini. Kind of, yeah, one of the hangovers for the 80s. He wasn't bad, but yeah, I'm seeing mid or torpedo. A lot of people are saying. Yeah, I think mid is probably fair for him. And yeah, mid 90s, number 2 80s. Yeah, definitely. I think he'd definitely be higher if it was the 80s. But yeah, so Michele Alboreto, we'll put him in mid. Right. Jean Alesi. So he did more races in the 90s than anybody else. And I ranked him 10th, I think, in the video. Everyone loves him. He was very popular with the Tifosi. Goat, I think, is a bit generous. I mean, he only won 1 race. He could have won more, to be honest, but he drove at Ferrari during some of their worst times in Formula 1. So I'm seeing, yeah, number 2, Torpedo, number 2. Yeah, I think Alesi is a number 2, but certainly he's one of those ones that you kind of think, were it not for how bad reliability was, he could have gotten so many more good results, to be honest. Yeah, number 2 will do for Jean Alesi. Okay, Philippe Alliot. He again, struggling to remember a bit. The same with Philippe Adams, but he's wearing what appear to be Lotus overalls, or late Lotus. So, and he was ranked around Philippe Alliot. He was ranked somewhere in the 50s. I think I put him. So, yeah, someone's saying Spinella. But yeah, he's a tricky one because he's one of the ones where it's gone over my head, even though I had to research all these drivers. Ligier and Larousse. Yeah, okay, that's what it is. It's not Lotus, it's Larousse livery. Right, okay. Yeah, so yeah, midfielder, basically kind of lower midfield. He could be genuinely fast in quali. Right, yeah. Okay. Well, off of that, I'm thinking either mid or Spinella for him. See if there's much else, any others in the chat. Spinella. I think we can be generous maybe and put him in I'm saying Spinella. Yeah, people are saying Spinella, so I think we'll put him in there. Okay. Giovanna Amati. So the only woman on this list and the last woman to enter a Grand Prix with the intention of racing in it. Okay, well, she did she entered three races and didn't qualify for any of them, and yeah, was spinning a lot and everything, so just not very fast. So yeah, she's an obvious cucumber. Affair with Lauda went crazy. Wasn't it with I thought it was with Flavio Briatore. Who will be the next woman in F1 in your opinion? I'm not convinced by Jamie Chadwick, because she's kind of going in partly because of her age, but she's going in a different direction now. She's gone to Indy Lights. I mean, I had looked at some of the younger. There was Ira Sidorkova, because she was 17 or 18. I thought, well, she has a lot of time left. And maybe people like to hype up Juju Noda, but she was kind of average W Series. So I don't know, to be honest, but I think there will be one eventually. Affair, yeah, apparently, I don't know how true this is, but basically I read that before she entered Formula 1, she did a test with Benetton, Giovanna Amati, and apparently she was having an affair with Flavio Briatore or something, but I don't know how true that is. But yeah, Chadwick's only 24. Yeah, she is, but because she's racing at a sort of Formula 3 level with W Series and Indy Lights. If she was in Formula 2 and stuff, there'd be more of a chance. But yeah, I think that's the main reason. But yeah. So yeah, let's put Giovanna Amati in cucumber. Okay, Michael Andretti. So Michael, he's an interesting one because he did his only year in Formula 1 with McLaren against Ayrton Senna, so that's quite a bad hand to be dealt as a rookie, I think, to be honest. And he wasn't ready. He got a podium. The final race he did before he retired, he got a podium, but otherwise he was crashing and just very, very slow. I mean, obviously, no one expects you to match Senna, but he was so far off the mark. But he was very good in America, just like his father, in IndyCar and on ovals. So what we're seeing: Spinella mid, quick driver wrong series, mid or torpedo. Had a lot of bad luck with mistakes. I'm thinking Spinella is probably best for him. Again, it kind of matches because he did crash a lot. So yeah, let's put Michael Andretti in Spinella. Okay, Marco Apicella. So he had a career that lasted for about half a mile. He did one race with Jordan in 1993. Or two or three. It was Monza. It was one of the two years. Did okay in qualifying, but then he got caught in a pile-up at the start, and they didn't bring him back. So there's not much else to say. I mean, maybe I was because I ranked him second from bottom, which maybe was a little unfair because it was his career was so short. But yeah, so we're seeing Spinella, cucumber, pay driver. It goes against the rankings a bit, but I feel like I could be generous and maybe put him in pay driver because his qualifying, he wasn't far off Barrichello, and apparently he'd never driven a car. He'd never driven a car with a flappy paddle gearbox before. So I think, yeah, there's a mixture of a lack of data, but also him doing reasonably well under the circumstances. I think we can be generous and put Marco Apicella in pay driver. Okay, really strong in junior series. Right. Okay, so next up is Luca Badoer. So this is one. He's someone who had a lot of bad luck. I mean, he had to spend most of his time driving with Minardi, and so many close calls with scoring points. Obviously, the one that everyone remembers is Nürburgring '99, where you could almost finished fourth. What we're seeing, seeing for him, mid. Badoer's underrated mid. Yeah, I think mid is fair, to be honest, because he was just he was trying his best in what were very bad cars, and so yeah, I think everyone's saying mid. So yeah, let's put Luca Badoer in mid. Okay, Julian Bailey. So he only did 3 or 4 races with Lotus, I believe. He was friends with like Martin Donnelly and Derek Warwick and all the kind of other British drivers around that time. Again, I ranked him around 81 or 82, so quite near the low. Will we see the rankings 90s F cars? I will do a video ranking all the 90s cars. I've only done preliminary data gathering, and doing all the cars up until the end of 1995. There's already over 100 of them, so that's going to be quite a big video. But yeah, that will come out eventually, but not for a little while, because I've been doing lots of really, really long videos recently. He was way slower than Hakkinen. Oh, of course, he was Hakkinen's teammate, yeah, wasn't he? He failed to qualify at the first race. I remember now, yeah, it was Phoenix. He failed to qualify, and Hakkinen qualified like 14th or something. So I think Julian Bailey was seeing mid, pay, cucumber, a couple of cucumbers. Yeah, I Julian Bailey, he can go in cucumber, I think. Right. Fabrizio Barbazza. So he drove for Minardi. And yeah, so he didn't do a full campaign. It was 1990. It was 92 or 93. Again, he's a driver who, before doing the research for the video, I literally only knew him by name and knew absolutely nothing else. And I ranked him about, I think he was 69th or 68th. I ranked him. Cucumber again. I mean, he wasn't Onyx and then Minardi, right? Okay, so yeah, I think Cucumber is a bit low. And yeah, he got 2 points, didn't he? So yeah, I think yes, on that, I think that's the reason I put him in the top 70, because he managed to score points in a Minardi, which is always good work. So what we're seeing, Cucumber, Spinella. I'm thinking either Spinella or pay driver. Was replaced by Martini. It wouldn't surprise me if he was, because Martini just was magnetized to Minardi and kept leaving and then coming back and everything. See, I'm seeing a lot of Spinella, so I think we can put Fabrizio Barbazza in Spinella. Okay, Paolo Barilla. So he was another Minardi driver, obvious pay driver, because he comes from a very wealthy family and he's now a billionaire. So he's one of the richest, I guess, ex-Formula One drivers in history on that basis. He only did about half a dozen races and wasn't very fast. So my first instinct is either pay driver or cucumber. Let me think. I ranked him around. He was in the 80s somewhere, so I don't think very good. Yeah, business goat cucumber driver. Yeah. Yeah, Yeah, I'm not seeing much else. So I think, yeah, Paolo Barilla, we can put him in cucumber. Okay, someone a bit more notable. Rubens Barrichello. So he's 11th on the list and unbeaten by all teammates until he joined Ferrari. Drove like a champ in that Stewart, getting a couple of pole positions, couple of podiums. Number 2, Barrichello. Torpedo. Yeah, I'm seeing number 2s. I think, yeah, like a Lacey, kind of good but not quite there. Very high torpedo. Yeah, I mean, he had a couple of crashes, but he did... I mean, his first couple of years, he was very, very promising, certainly, and did some very good work with Jordan. Torpedo's too low. Yeah, I think Torpedo's a bit low. I think he can go in. I think he number 2 driver. Which again he would have been. He was number 2 driver for the 2000s video as well. So yeah, Rubens Barrichello, we can put him. Not bad for a number 2 driver. Okay, Michael Bartels. So he, of the 10 drivers that didn't qualify for a race, he was ranked the highest. He was the only one who actually didn't have to do pre-qualifying. But even so, in however many races it was, he never made the top 26, which is what you needed. And again, he was at Lotus alongside Hakkinen as well. I think it was the same year as Julian Bailey. So yeah, Michael Bartels, I think. Let's put him in cucumber. My phone has stopped. Have I lost internet, or is that just... Let's have a look at this. Am I still there? I'll just click over to the stream page a second. Is that still coming in? Oh, it's still working. Yeah, it's just me. Just my phone being funny. Sorry, 2 seconds. What am I doing? Sorry about this. 2 seconds. My phone. I got my chat up on my phone, and it's just being a bit funny. Okay, I've got it back up. Yeah, sorry. I think that was just my phone, but obviously I need the chat going so I can see what everyone's doing. Right, what's coming? B, do you think the new possible team for 2025 it will be an HRT Marussia? I'm assuming you mean in the sense of being uncompetitive. I'd hope not. I mean, they seem to have higher standards now about how much money you bring and everything. I mean, we have since then we've only had one new team, which was Haas, and they've done reasonably good out of it. Obviously, if you meant literally bring them back, I would love that if they could bring back HRT. But yeah, I think well, obviously there's going to be teething issues, but you know, Audi coming back and well, they're buying out or Andretti. I mean, if they've got plenty of money, they should do all right, to be honest. But yeah. Right. Okay. Who's next? Paul Belmondo. Okay, so another literal pay driver. He did March and then a year with Pacific where he only qualified for 2 races, and then he retired from one with exhaustion and then crashed out of the other one quite early on. So I think for Paul Belmondo, see what people are saying. My first instinct, again, he's as either pay driver or cucumber. I mean, he wasn't particularly good, so I'd say somewhere down the bottom. Let's see what the chat's saying, if it's updating itself. But yeah, I think I'll put Paul Belmondo. He can go in cucumber. Okay, Olivier Beretta. So, one of the most cucumberish cucumbers that ever cucumbered, yes. Olivier Beretta, so Monegasque, which is quite rare, drove in 1994 for Larousse in their final year. Only did the middle part of the season, was kind of all right. He's one, there's not, he didn't do much that was particularly memorable. Much better in sports cars than single-seaters, certainly. So, I think pay driver, either pay or Spinella, probably, to be honest. He's ranked 70th, 69, something like that on the list. So, I think I'll put him in Spinella. Okay, so Gerhard Berger, so a rather more interesting driver. He was ranked 8th on the list, so I basically put him as the best, non-champion of the 90s. I mean, again, very solid. I mean, he was shoehorned, certainly against Senna, he wasn't considered that officially, but he was kind of shoehorned into that number 2 role. But was still pretty good on his day, won a few races, got a few pole positions of his own. And, was very good for team morale with all his practical jokes and that. And then again, Ferrari tended to have the edge on Alesi. Why is Mansell a pay driver? That's not Mansell, that's Marco Apicella. It's going alphabetically, so we're still on B. So he did, number 2, so they did Ferrari, and then Benetton, Benetton again did some pretty good stuff. So, he's almost GOAT, but I think so. For Gerhard Berger, he can go in number 2, I think. Right, Éric Bernard, right, that's who that is. I was just like, okay, who was that for a second? So he did, is that Lotus again? He's another one. Another mid-90s. He stuck around for quite a while. He did a fair few races, if I remember. He did, 40 or 50, something like that. Larousse, that's the one. I'm getting the Larousse and the Lotus overalls mixed up. My first instinct is mid. Larousse and Ligier, right? Okay. But Pernard there, podium with Ligier. Okay, well, he got a podium, so that's not good going. So I'm thinking mid. If I wanted to be really generous, I could put him in Torpedo, but that might be a little high. So Spinella mid. I've got him. I mean, based on I've got Alboreto and Badoer, so I think Éric Bernard, he can go in mid. Right. Okay, Enrico Bertaggia. This might have to be cucumber on the basis that he never actually drove a car. He was on the list because he was still an official entrant, but it was with Andrea Moda, and the car wasn't built, so he couldn't actually do anything. And so I put him 10th on the non-starters list because he didn't start anything at all, which wasn't his fault, to be honest. I mean, he did a little bit of driving with Coloni in 1989 as a pay driver again. So Enrico Bertaggia, he can go in cucumber, I think. It's not very well cropped, but that's Mark Blundell. If you can't see from the podium picture, his career was a bit short. I mean, he was 90, 91 and 92 till 96, 95. He could have gone on longer, I think. I mean, he drove for Brabham, but then also did testing with Williams, kind of opposite ends of the grid. So got a good taste of what was good and what wasn't. And then he drove Ligier or possibly Tyrrell. I always get Ligier and Tyrrell mixed up. And then he had his year of McLaren when Nigel Mansell walked away and retired. I'm thinking Torpedo at first because we haven't got anyone in there yet. Tyrrell's last podium, yeah, I think so. That sounds about right. Torpedo, a couple are saying Torpedo. Yeah. I think Torpedo for Blundell would put, because there's no one in there. He's not. Yeah. Anywhere else, I think, is a bit too generous. Is number 2, and then a bit mean is mid. Okay, so then we got Jean-Christophe Boullion. He did a handful of races with Sauber in 1995. I ranked him somewhere in the 50s. Again, just kind of drove okay. I think he scored a point or two. And he did some testing with Jordan and a couple of other teams as well. But not a very long career in Formula One. So I'm thinking either mid or Spinella for him. 5th in Germany, that'll be where the points came. I'm really rusty on the obviously I wasn't watching Formula One in the 90s. I mean, I was born in the 90s, but I don't have the same like memory knowledge that with the 2000s and the 2010s from the races. Mid Spinella. Yeah, I think I feel like there were a couple of accidents in there if I remember correctly, or just times he wasn't very good. So I think Spinella for Jean-Christophe Boullion. There are a lot of drivers whose names letter starts with B. I've just noticed. It's almost every driver so far that we've done. Okay. Thierry Boutsen. That's it. My mind went blank there. So again, more of an 80s driver. Started the 90s of Williams. Got a couple of wins. Left just before they got good again. And did a couple of years with Tyrrell or Ligier. I'm always getting the two mixed up, which he did not enjoy particularly. I mean, he was the lowest ranked race winner. It was 20th, 18th, 9th, around that position. So my first thought is Torpedo. Although he wasn't exactly a crasher, but had a very good 90, I think, but after that, nothingness, mid Torpedo. Prost is not bad for a number 2 driver. Okay, we'll get to Prost later, but think about that one. Andrea Moda better than Red, probably Torpedo. Yeah, let's put Thierry Boutsen. He can go in Torpedo, I think. Okay, that's David Brabham. So he had a year with Brabham themselves, but obviously donkey's years after his dad had sold the team. And then he did his year with Simtech and drove pretty good, actually, considering the car he had. He was reasonably quick and much faster than all of his teammates. I mean, that was not an easy year for Simtech, and they went through several different drivers. He was one of the highest ranked drivers that was driving like just for backmarker teams that I had on the list. So my first thought is Spinella. Possibly mid, but I'm not so sure. Torpedo. Simtek was... His season with Simtek was very good, solid mid. Yeah, I think as well, because he was good. He was good for kind of morale and stuff. I mean, obviously it was a really difficult time for the team. Like literally their third race in Formula One, and one of their drivers is killed. That's not easy for any team to handle. So yeah, I think he can go in mid. Right, Gary Brabham. Okay, well he did little to no driving because he was with Life, and he's also a convicted sex offender. So I think he can just go in cucumber, to be honest. So yeah, I'll just put him in there. Right, Martin Brundle. God love him. Yeah. So he can go maybe number 2, but it's going to be either not bad for number 2 or Torpedo, I think. Things never quite landed with him. Never got a win. And like his Benetton year, 92, that was a good year actually. I mean, he was up against Schumacher, but was still a very good driver. So yeah, what we're seeing, Torpedo number 2. He's so close to number 2. He just had so much bad luck. Yeah, I think I can be generous and put Martin Brundle in not bad for a number 2 driver. Okay, well that's all the B drivers gone. So now we have Alex Caffey. So he is another famed Andrea Moda driver. And he tended to crash and injure himself a lot. Both on and off the track. When he had a couple of injuries from racing, and then also he had a bicycle accident as well. So he ended up having a quite intermittent career. That was one thing, actually, quite a revelation when I was doing the research for the 90s video, was there were only 2 fatalities in the 90s, but a lot of drivers had either career-ending injuries or injuries that put them on the sidelines, which really doesn't happen that often anymore, but was surprisingly common back then, often in testing as well. So what they're saying, Spinella, I think he had a 5th in Monaco. He did score some points. There was one year, it was his year with footwork, and he scored all the team. I think that was the year he was teammates with Michele Alboreto, and he scored all the team's points. Yeah, so I'd say either Spinella or mid for Caffey. I'm seeing a lot of Spinellas. Yeah, so I suppose, yeah, let's I feel like mid, but then of course because he tended to crash so much, I guess I'd put it in Spinella. Okay, Ivan Capelli. So yeah, we can put hit. So he was at Leighton House, and he had his season with Ferrari as well. Again, not the best car, 91 or 92, and yeah, he didn't perform particularly well either. But otherwise, he was good at Leighton House, and he did 2 races with Jordan, and then retired afterwards. Second in France, yes, of course. He almost won at the French Grand Prix in 1990 in a car that up until then hadn't scored any points, and I'm not sure if he'd even finished any races because it was so unreliable. Yeah, the Leighton House thing is pretty, that makes up for Ferrari, I think. And so I'm seeing what we're seeing. Torpedo underrated mid. Oh. Ferrari destroyed him completely. Before that, he was very good, but did better in the 80s. I think we can put him in Torpedo because he was good as well at, like, he had a good rapport at Leighton House and it was kind of quite good at developing the team and everything. When you have a puberty-driven newie designing your car, things tend to go well. Don't tend to go well even. Yeah, he was getting into his stride. I mean, he knew how to make pretty cars certainly back then, but it would be a while before we started getting all the kind of diffusers on wheels that he started making at Red Bull. Yeah, so let's put Ivan Capelli. He can go in Torpedo, I think. Right. Pedro Chaves. So he's another non-starter. He did almost a whole season with Coloni in 1991. He stuck out. Yeah, he stuck out most of the year. He failed to get past pre-qualifying in any sessions. And then after he failed to qualify at his home race in Portugal, he just gave up and left. So I think Pedro Chaves, yeah, Cucumber. I mean, never qualified for a race, so there's not much to say with him. And Cucumber, pay driver, yeah, Cucumber. I think for him. It says a lot about the 90s, how many drivers we've got in the bottom tier. Really, it was just the avalanche of pay drivers. Really. Okay, Andrea Chiesa. So he, again, I ranked him third from bottom because he did half a dozen races with Fond Metal, and he crashed out of all of them. So, yeah, that screams Cucumber to me. Who? Andrea Chiesa. So, yeah, I think with him, he can go Cucumber. And, yeah, everyone's saying Cucumber. Okay, Érik Comas. So he did about 50 or 60 races. He stuck around for quite a while, driving in the midfield mostly. Again, Ligier or Tyrrell. I'm always going to mix them up. It's the overalls. This is one of the problems when I see the pictures of like the team photos and the class photos that you call them from the 90s. Is because so many of the overalls look the same, and you get them mixed up. I mean, even the McLaren and Ferrari ones were just base red colour with different sponsors and that. So what's he saying? Mid, Ligier, Larousse. Okay, yeah. So I got one of them, yeah, Ligier, and then Larousse. Spinella mid. He is the one. Yeah, no, Érik Comas. He's the one who had that massive crash at Spa and then got rescued by Senna. Ligier, Tyrrell, and Prost have such similar overall. It's really difficult to tell the difference. Yeah. It's the blue. Was most known for Senna situations. Mid, Spinella, yeah. He did. I'm sure there was a podium in there somewhere. Mostly people are saying mid, so we can put Érik Comas in mid. Okay, again, badly cropped picture, but that's David Coulthard. So the number 2 thing is my first instinct. Because he was, again, unofficially a number 2 alongside Hakkinen. He really did do better in the 2000s, I think, particularly 2001. Obviously, he finished runner-up to Schumacher. What we're seeing, Goat. Right, okay. Yeah, and he got, obviously, he did have good, like, he got several wins, a lot of podiums. Didn't quite have the staying power to keep on with the championship challenge, even in '99 without Schumacher in the equation. Things just kind of fell apart a bit at the end of that year. Coulthard, Goat, Torpedo, Goat, not quite Goat, number 2. Yeah, I don't know if I could justify Goat for Coulthard. I think he wasn't in Goat in the 2000s. Maybe if he'd retired after he left McLaren, but I think my first thought would be not bad for a number 2 driver for him. So yeah, we put Coulthard number 2. I think at this rate the only goats are going to be the champions, but we'll have to see. Okay. Yannick Dalmas. Another mid-90s French driver. Again, he's wearing the Larousse kit, but I'm nothing sticking out in my mind about him, to be honest. But he did. I can't even remember how long he was there. He's one of the ones that's just gone over my head completely. But I've seen pay driver. Yeah, he's one of the ones. I don't want to cheat and Google him. Yeah, so Yannick Dalmas, that is a tricky one. Pay. Maybe he should go in pay because that's only got one person in it so far. There's someone saying mid. Drive the safety car for Le Mans. I mean, he could have done. I have no idea. It wouldn't surprise me if he did. I just can't remember a thing about him. I think I ranked him somewhere in the 50s in the video. He won Le Mans. Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah. There are a lot of good Le Mans drivers, actually, that went in F1. It was quite common in this. It was like, there are a lot of drivers who maybe weren't so good in Formula 1, but then were very good in touring cars, or they did really well at Le Mans. 92, 94, 95, 99. Oh, wow. Okay, 4 times. Maybe mid, Spinella, pay driver. I think Spinella, to be honest. I'm kind of struggling to remember anything about him properly. Right. Andrea de Cesaris. So this, yeah, Torpedo is beckoning, I think, for him. He did, like, I mean, his interesting career. I mean, he just bounced from team to team, had a way of keeping himself employed and in a job, even though he crashed a lot and was driving cars that just didn't work. I mean, he has one of the worst finishing rates of any driver, although most of the time that was the car not working, but also him crashing. Spinella, because in the 90s, pretty much over, yeah. It's the GOAT of Spinella, mid-torpedo. Yeah, I mean, he's one of these ones. It's like the Grosjeans and the Maldonados, where they crash, but then they can also have insane races, and it's maybe they're just pushing themselves so hard that it just doesn't always land. So yeah, I think Andrea de Cesaris is, yeah, that's gonna be Torpedo. Nearly won Belgium 91. Yeah, that was, of course, he was the Jordan, and he was up to 4th, I think, and then the car broke down, wasn't he? So yeah, let's put Andrea de Cesaris. He can go in Torpedo. Right. Pedro de la Rosa, my main man at HRT. So he is one of the... He joined in 99, so he's being ranked off of 1 season, which was with Arrows. And yeah, it was all right. He scored a point at the first race, and he didn't score any others that year, but then his Takagi, his teammate, didn't score any, and he was often far better than him, but just had years of just constant problems with the gearbox and the car not working and everything. Shame with De La Rosa. He's one of these drivers like Alex Wirtz and kind of Ricardo Zonta, where they had very stop-start careers alternating between racing and testing. So we're seeing mid, Spinella. I thought my first thought would be mid, to be honest. I think because it was a rookie year and yeah, did pretty well. So I think yeah. So yeah, let's put Pedro de la Rosa. He can go in mid. All right. Okay, the one everyone's been waiting for, Jean-Denis Delétraz. Well, obvious goat. I mean, that was what was it? Lapped 10 times at Adelaide in '94, and then some 7 times at the Nürburgring, like the year after. And then even Pacific didn't want him because they were like, well, we don't care if he's bringing money. He's just so bad. We can't have him here. Either goat or make a new category. What is Delétraz doing? Yeah. The goat of... Yeah, I could make a new category could be combine the two, just the goat cucumber. So yeah, we'll put Delétraz down in cucumber. It's annoying because that famous "What is Delétraz doing?" is the thing is that wasn't actually Delétraz. I mean, Murray Walker was always a bit touch and go with his accuracy, but that was actually Andrea Montemini kind of shaking the car because it was running out of fuel. So he was trying to get the tank, the fuel to move around in the tank a bit more and try and see if he can get it back to the pit lane. Yeah. Oh yeah, Delétraz, he got cramp. He had at Estoril. He retired because he got cramp in his right arm on a clockwise circuit where you're using your left arm the most as well. And yeah, his GT, sad because his GT career was pretty impressive. Yeah, he was actually all right in GT cars. That's the thing. Again, Louis is not bad in sports cars either. Okay, Pedro Diniz. So, classic pay driver. He feels kind of broadly analogous to Nicholas Latifi in that, like, he's not, pay driver, not particularly fast, but he's just a really good guy, just quite nice and wholesome, and there's the odd moment here or there where he's actually all right. I mean, he did, what was it, the Sauber year, he beat Alesi, he outscored him, didn't he, in 99 actually. Yeah, outscored Alesi 99. Yeah. Diniz wasn't that bad. Closer to Stroll in the TV. Yeah, maybe he is. He has that. He's kind of... Yeah, I think he probably was faster. Latifi was just so bad in qualifying, and Stroll has these occasional moments where he just shits all over everyone and that, and you just think, where did that come from? So we're seeing mid, Spinella. I feel like mid, to be honest, because he does another one. His finishing rate is quite bad, but that's again because the car was always breaking down. So mid Spinella. Although looking at the other mid drivers, that's a little... Yeah, maybe Spinella for Pedro Diniz. I think, yeah. Right, Martin Donnelly. So he, again, very short career with Lotus in 1990, which was he was getting into a stride. It was going pretty well. And then obviously he had that career-ending crash at Jerez. So that put a stop to things pretty early. But up until then, he was getting into a rhythm. And he was starting to get attention from other teams as well. Martin Donnelly. Martin's quite a sad story, but he was doing well. Yeah, he's another one where it's a lack of data because only did about 11 or 12 races. My first thought would be mid, I think, because it's obviously quite an even ranking for him. See if anything else comes in the chat. Cucumber? No, he's not a cucumber. Yeah. I think I'll put Martin Donnelly in mid, I think. Right. Giancarlo Fisichella. This is a very young Fisichella, driving for Minardi and Jordan. Yeah, pretty strong actually. Both times, especially at Jordan. I mean, he got a couple of podiums and think there was a pole position in there, and then there was Benetton as well. Yeah, he it's going to be either Torpedo or number 2, I think. His Benetton 99, the 98 or 99 season, there were quite a few podiums, I remember. We got high torpedo, borderline number 2, mid torpedo. See if anything else comes in the chat. Yeah. Well, I got Brundle in number 2, and he's no, I think number 2. He's yeah, certainly. He's up with Capelli, but not on the same league as Berger and Coulthard. Yeah, somehow 98, I think it was. He got several podiums and somehow still got outscored by Alex Wirtz, his teammate. But seeing a couple of number 2, yeah, I think I'll put Fisichella. He can go in not bad for number 2 driver. Okay, Christian Fittipaldi. So he was good, actually. It not like his career ended. It didn't really have to. Like he left Minardi in '94, and went to America, but he wasn't like dropped because he was performing badly or anything. I mean, he scored a handful of points with them, and obviously there was that famous, or 93, maybe that's what it was, yeah, because that's the year when he had that famous finish line crash with Martini. Footwork, is it? Okay. Yeah, I was looking at the overalls. There was definitely Minardi was in there somewhere, and then yeah. So we got Torpedo, Spinella, mid torpedo. Yeah, I'm thinking Torpedo could be fair. Spinella, a couple of people saying. He didn't really have, other than the crash at Monza, he didn't have any particularly big blunders, to be honest. And he was fast, but just driving bad cars. So Spinella, Torpedo, maybe that's a little generous. Mid. Oops. At least, yeah. I think let's go Torpedo. I think there's only four of them in there. Mid has to be mid. Spinella. Well, I suppose only one person said Torpedo so far. Yeah, no, okay, let's go mid. Yeah. Okay, Gregor Foitek. Another one not particularly memorable. He drove. It was the beginning of the decade. It was either Onyx or Real. It was one of the dodgy back markers they had back then, and they were using Gregor Foitek, Swiss driver. They were using bits like suspension and stuff from some of the sports cars they had because they were just short of money and a bit dodgy. And his dad was a shareholder and then pulled his funding because he was like, "This is not safe for my son." Pay driver Cucumber. I feel like Cucumber would change to a literally who tier. Yeah, it probably could. Some very forgettable drivers in that bottom tier. What's the background music you're using in most of your videos? I use a mixture. There's about half a dozen. It's all stuff that comes off the YouTube library, so it's like royalty free. I mean, the one I used in most videos is Pixelated Autumn Leaves is the name, but yeah, I just pick whatever takes my fancy. I usually write in the information, in the video info, what the music is if I can. Apicella is very lonely in Pay Driver. Yeah, let's put Foitek. He can go in Pay Driver, I think. Yeah, we can be a bit generous to him because he was just driving such an awful car. Okay, next up is Norberto Fontana. So he did some stuff with... he raced with Sauber in 1997. He'd been their test driver for quite a while, and had not the best run. He twice was brought in to replace Gianni Morbidelli. And yeah, he had Jerez 97. He blocked Villeneuve when being lapped, and then he passed Verstappen on the grass. Then we've got Page Driver Pay. Remember when Foitek tried to kill Herbert? Oh, that was Foitek in the crash, Herbert's famous crash. Oh, okay, that's probably what he's remembered for then, more actually, yeah. Argentinians, I'm not going to give my opinion here. Yeah, I couldn't believe how short he is actually as well. Like, I saw some pictures of him, and like compared to the other drivers, he's like Yuki Tsunoda sized driver. Norberto Fontana. I'm seeing mostly Pay. Yeah, he's not quite Cucumber, so yeah, I think let's put Norberto Fontana in Pay. A great junior driver. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he was. I mean, I didn't look myself in I don't remember much about his junior career, but yeah, that obviously happens with some drivers, that they do really well in the junior categories, that they then just kind of falter when they get to Formula One. Okay, Heinz-Harald Frentzen. So I got a bit of stick for not putting him in the top 10. But obviously very good. I mean, he needs to be commended for how he drove in 99, I think. To try and somehow be fighting for a championship in a Jordan, and absolutely walking all over Damon Hill. Before that, mostly half decent mid laner, midfielder even, and yeah, I mean, reasonably solid. It's just a shame things didn't really happen. But yes, we're seeing number two. 99 was GOAT, number 2 overall. Yeah, I can't quite justify putting him in GOAT. So Heinz-Harald Frentzen, he can go in number 2. Amazing driver in horrible cars, drowned in Williams, and was overhyped a lot compared to Schumacher. Yeah, we're quite a way into this, and we haven't got anyone in GOAT yet, which is not not a good sign, really. Okay, next up is Bertrand Gachot. So what could have been, if he hadn't sprayed that taxi driver in the face with pepper spray. So he won Le Mans in 92 and add a felon category. Yeah, quite good businessman, because he was kind of half running Pacific whilst also driving, although he didn't really want to drive for them because the car was so awful. Has got mid torpedo. And yeah, obviously Schumacher wouldn't have got his chance. I mean, Schumacher would have... he would have ended up in Formula One not long after that without that. Maybe he would have joined... Because he was still connected to Mercedes and Sauber. So maybe he would have joined Sauber in 93. It's possible, when they came in. Maybe I should do a video on that, because I've been trying to think of doing alternate history stuff, but it involves being good with Photoshop, which I'm not very good. Maybe I should do, what if Gachot never got arrested and then Schumacher never joined Jordan in 91. So you got mid-pay, mid-torpedo. I think, yeah, either mid or torpedo. It's hard to judge him properly on Pacific because the car was so bad. Jordan was good, though, getting into a stride with it. And then he did... was it LaRousse or Fond Metal in 90 at the end of when he came back and wasn't a very good car at all? Mostly seeing mid. So yeah, Bertrand Gachot, he can go in mid, I think. Right, Marc Gené, another one like De La Rosa that joined in 99. His year was with Minardi. He scored 2 points or 1 point, whatever it was, in at the Nürburgring at the behest of his teammate, Luca Badoer. That's the one. Otherwise, yeah, just all right. I mean, same kind of similar situation to Della Rosa, really, that it's early on. I mean, he again is another one who had a very bitty F1 career because he did 2 years in Minardi and then he had a handful of races with Williams stepping in, and then has been a brand ambassador for Ferrari for donkey's years now. So we got Mid, Spinella. Yeah, maybe let's throw him in Spinella, I think, for Marc Gené. Right. Bruno Giacomelli. So his 90s career was spent at Life. And so he again never started a race because he drove one of the worst Formula 1 cars ever built. He did race in the 70s and 80s, actually, properly with different teams, but then got brought back several years after he'd retired for this. The thing is, you would say Cucumber but he didn't qualify, but he wasn't, like, the car was so bad. I mean, experienced guy, was obviously getting the max out of it. Yeah, I feel like pay driver probably, to be honest, because he just wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't a beginner. Like he knew what he was doing and he knew how to drive and that. So, but he just didn't really. Yeah, with no races under his belt, it's hard to say. But yeah, so yeah, let's think. I think pay driver for Bruno Giacomelli. Right, Jean-Marc Gounon. So he was at Simtech in 1994, and he took over from Montemini, who got brought in after Ratzenberger died, and then he crashed and injured himself, and so then they got Gounon. He gave them their best result that year because he finished 9th, I think, at Manicourt. Probably last on track, I'm guessing, in that car, unless there was a Pacific running behind. Yeah, so not bad, could be worse. So I think Cucumber's too low. I'd say either Spinella or pay driver for him. So we've got low Spinella, mid Spinella, decent driver, bad car, low Spinella. After he joined, Pacific never qualified. Yes, yeah, of course, they qualified. It was only the first couple of races where they managed to, and then he came in and they just couldn't after that. I don't think he drove for Sauber. No. You could be thinking of Fontana or possibly Boullion. Maybe you're thinking of Jean-Christophe Boullion. Spinella. I'm seeing Spinella. So yeah, let's put Jean-Marc Gounon in Spinella. Okay. Olivier Grouillard. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm assuming. I don't know if it is. Also, I don't speak French. But it's spelled like Grouillard. So I was like Grouillard. So yeah, Olivier Grouillard, early 90s. I'm going to say Ligier because he's French, so that's probably makes sense. I think I'm remembering either crashing a lot or blocking drivers when being lapped. Ozella and then Tyrrell. Right, okay, yeah, so okay, I'm always going to get Ligier and Tyrrell mixed up. Or possibly Fond Metal. Ozella, when they just say Fond Metal and they use the same chassis, or they switched team names. Because I think Fond Metal were the ones where they sold the team to a serial killer by accident, or they didn't know who he was, and then he got shot to death in some a standoff with the police in a hotel somewhere or something. I should do a video on that. I need to look into that, see how true that is, that they actually sold it to a fugitive on the run for murder. Fond metal and footwork. Ozella is fond metal. Okay, it's so confusing with those early 90s teams. Anyway, as a driver, I'm thinking either Spinalla, potentially mid. That was Larousse with the murderer. I'll need to double check this, because it was something. It was one of those teams, one of the ones at the back with no money. I can't remember anything about his driving. Maybe I'll just put him in Spinalla, just par for the course, because I can't remember any of it at all. So yeah, see if there's if anyone's got any insight in the chat that can help me out. Put him in Spinalla. Yeah, he can just go in Spinalla. He's one. I mean, yeah, just going. My mind's gone blank with him. So yeah. Okay, Maurício Gugelmin. Again, I assume I'm pronouncing that correctly. For any Brazilians who can correct me. So he was at Leighton House, and had in the race in 1990 that Ivan Capelli almost won. He was running at the front with him, but then his car broke down, so he could have got a podium there. Drove bad cars that didn't work, but again didn't drive particularly well either. And he went to the States, I think, did IndyCar. 89 podium. Yeah, he got a podium with them in 89. Fairly mid. Yeah. I'm seeing almost Gugelmin, right? So yeah. Gugelmin, you're right, something. I'll need to look. I've been trying to look up the Brazilian pronunciation, because I'm going to do another short looking at all the corner names for Interlagos, and I had to try and, well, first out what they mean, and then look at how you actually pronounce them correctly. Yes, everyone's saying mid, so he can go mid. Okay, Naoki Hattori. Okay, that's, yeah. Forgot there for a second. He was another non-starter. Yeah, Coloni, 1991. Yeah, 3 races of Coloni, and failed to qualify for any of them. So Cucumber is probably the more likely one, I think. I think he won Le Mans, maybe. I can't remember. I forget. The thing is, yeah, there were a lot of Japanese drivers in the 90s, and they were all really good, like, outside of F1. I mean, they were kind of mid to low tier in F1, but a lot of them did well in Le Mans and domestically in, like, Formula Nippon and Japanese touring cars and that. Only did 2 pre-qualifying, yeah, because it was right at the end. I think he replaced Pedro Chaves, if I remember correctly. But I'll just put Cucumber, because, yeah, didn't qualify for any races. Right, Johnny Herbert. So another high-ranking one. So he had, without his Gregor Foitek induced injury in 88, that was a constant gripe for him, because it left him with permanent foot injuries. Won 3 races, although all 3 of they were all run in kind of chaotic races where the leaders took each other out. And yeah, very much a number 2 to Schumacher in 95. Torpedo, number 2. Herbert Torpedo wasn't as good as Brundle. No, I don't think he was as good as Brundle, to be honest. Comparing to Blundell and Boots, and could have been champion without the injuries. Potentially, yeah. I mean, he had his first few races or first couple of seasons, I think, were quite decent when he did eventually join. And yeah, he did really well, but he said himself he just hardly ever felt comfortable driving the car and then when they put when we got those blasted groove tyres in 98, that just made it even worse for him. So seeing number 2 Torpedo, number 2, he was wanted by McLaren in 95. Yeah, I mean, I think that would have been interesting. I mean, I think he probably made the better decision being at Benetton because it was the more competitive car, even if Schumacher never would have let him really get anywhere near the championship. I'm mostly seeing Torpedo. I think, yeah, let's put Herbert in Torpedo. Okay, Damon Hill. So the first champion that we've got on here. On that basis, your first thought would be GOAT, but Damon, the more you look into it, and you're like, it was kind of up and down so much. Like he did some really good stuff with Williams, but then, and also Arrows was quite good as well. I mean, that was a terrible car in that, but then 99 was just such a bad year. Damon Rocks, only a cheating Schumacher to stop him. Not worthy of GOAT, but number 2 for his lower team performances. I wouldn't put him as GOAT. He's one of the weakest champions. I think, yeah, he is. If you were going to rank every champion, he'd be one of the lowest, I think. I mean, he's quite self-deprecating. I remember on Beyond the Grid, he was like, no, I'm not really that good. He was very self-deprecating. But he was just lucky that he started out on his career in one of the... Well, I was about to say his career in one of the best cars ever, but I remember he did Brabham first. Yeah, most people are saying number 2, so yeah. I think despite winning a championship, I think we might have to put Damon Hill in not bad for a number 2 driver. Right, Mika Hakkinen. So the third kind of big driver in a row. I mean, this has to be GOAT. I think this is, yeah. Everyone loves Mika. It just, yeah, such good, like, his rivalry with Schumacher was just fantastic, and lots of really, really strong performances. Yeah, I mean, when I was ranking him, I was looking at his early stuff, and when he was at McLaren, I was like, he did have some very dodgy races when he got like his race ban in 94 and stuff. But yeah, I mean, obviously he's just a brilliant driver overall. So yeah, our first GOAT, Mika Hakkinen. At long last, we've got one in the top. Okay. From the sublime to the ridiculous, Taki Inoue. Another goat cucumber, or goatumber, if we can make that a word. Yeah, it just... He was stuck around surprisingly long. I mean, did one race with SimTech, then a whole season with footwork, and then almost got a seat with Minardi. But yeah, I mean, crashed a lot, wasn't very fast, had some weird crashes involving pace cars and safety cars and everything else. The best at being the worst, yes. Maybe he should be. We can give him the title of the best worst driver in Formula One. Could be something. So yeah, he's gonna be a cucumber, I think. He outqualified the mighty Max Papis at a race in '95. No, yeah, I think he never qualified any higher than 16th or something in the whole season. Or something, yeah. Right, Eddie Irvine. He's in a similar kind of position, I think, to Heinz-Harald Frentzen. In that, again, unexpected title contender in the 90s, and again should be commended for his 99 performance, having to take the reins over from Schumacher and carry the team in his absence. So close to being champion. I mean, when I did my video using the modern point system for every season. He actually wins the championship in 99 by like 18 points or something. So, but he did have, before 99, he really wasn't brilliant, like much slower than Michael. And before that, his first couple of seasons, there were so many crashes and collisions of other drivers, and he nearly lost his license actually at one point, I think. And it took him a long time to kind of mellow and get into it. Barrichello outscored him in 94, 95. Won his first race in 99. I thought it was 97. Was it? No, it was 99. Yeah, no, 97 Australia. That's Coulthard. Yeah. All of his wins came in 99. I liked him as a kid because I remember watching, like, I liked it because as a kid, I liked the fact that it was, red car Ferrari, yellow Jordan, green Jaguar, and he drove the Jaguar, and I was like, I like him because that's a pretty car. So what we got? Number 2, mid Spinella. Mid's a bit too low. I think Torpedo, to be honest, because again, a lot of crashes. 5-car crash in 94. Oh yeah, that was the one with Jos Verstappen was in there and a few others. Let's go Torpedo for Eddie Irvine, I think. Okay. Stefan Johansson. So again, almost entirely in the 80s. Ferrari McLaren, lots of podiums. There's that epic picture which I used for the thumbnail for the turbo vid of the flames coming out the back of the car. That was him driving. But in the 90s, it was like Onyx and I think footwork. Again, he did a handful of races here and there for a couple of the backmarker teams and got fired from them each, and so didn't do much. So what we got? AGS. Yeah, that's one of them. Mid Spinella. Spinella Onyx. Yeah, mid. Because I ranked him, I think he was 82nd, 83rd in the ranking. Maybe Spinella, because he knew what he was doing, but he was just driving such bad cars that still got himself dropped. I'm seeing mostly mid. Yeah, because he got a podium. I mean, I think that was in 1989. He got that podium with Onyx, where he would go from not qualifying to getting podiums. I think Spinella, to be honest, because it was so bitty in the 90s. It's hard you can't really assess him properly off of that. It's his 80. When I do the 80s video eventually, then there'll be much more to talk about. Let's put Stefan Johansson in Spinella. Okay, Ukyo Katayama. So he, long-standing midfield driver with Tyrrell for quite a while. He did a year of Minardi. Sorry about that. My laptop likes to do that for some reason. Ukyo Katayama. So he actually was mostly midfield. Scored points reasonably frequently. He said that he actually had a benign tumour in his back, which stopped him being taken by an undisclosed front-running team in 1995. In terms of driver vacancies for 95 from front-running teams, my first guess is either McLaren or Benetton, to be honest. Ukyo was astonishing in 94. His quality average is only bettered by the big three. Had a lot of poor seasons. Mid. Yeah, I think Katayama, he can go mid. He was the one. He was quite self-deprecating, I remember, as well, as similar to Taki Inoue. Let's put Ukyo Katayama in mid. Frank Lagorce. Mild 7 wanted him at Benetton in 95. Oh, he turned it down, right. Okay, so it was Benetton. Yeah, that would make sense, yeah. Okay, Frank Lagorce. Another largely forgettable driver, didn't do much. I'm going to say Minardi, but probably... I don't know. Yeah, can't really think much with him. 2 races for Ligier at the end of 94. Right, yeah. Was it just the 2 races? Did he do any... He must have done other team... I can't remember. It goes over my head. There are too many drivers. Pay driver at best. Yeah, probably pay driver. I think it's just the lack of data and stuff that comes to mind. So yeah, Frank Lagorce can go in pay driver. Okay, Jan Lammers. So he, again, was a race in the 70s and 80s, and then he got brought back by March. Your chat was frozen until a spam balloon came up on stream. Right, I didn't say... I mean, it's been running smoothly for me, but yeah, maybe it does that from time to time. Yeah, Jan Lammers. So yeah, he came back... It was 10 years after he'd last raced. So he has the longest gap between races of any driver in Formula 1. Weren't bad, and he was going to race for them again in 93, but then the team folded, so that didn't happen. So what we got? Spinella... Le Mans winner. Yeah, another one. He won... Yeah, because he won in 88 with... it was Johnny Dumfries and... Oh, who was the other one? Was it Herbert? I can't... Yeah, it was in the Jag. It'll come to me in a second, or someone will put it in the chat who the third driver was. Yeah, so we're seeing... Everyone's saying Spinella. So yeah, Jan Lammers, he can go in Spinella. Okay, Pedro Lamy. So he... Andy Wallace the third. Okay, yeah, right, that's... Yeah, I don't know who that is. But I just remember Johnny Dumfries and Jan Lammers. Okay, Pedro Lamy. So he was Lotus. Had nice big shunt with JJ Leto at Imola 94. And then had that enormous testing crash at Silverstone that broke all of his limbs, put him on the sideline, and he almost died. And yeah, he was out. He was out of it for a long time, and that just kind of killed the momentum. Yeah, Spinella, another Spinella. Yeah, maybe Spinella again. I think Pedro Lamy got a point for Minardi, Adelaide 95. That was the race that hardly anyone finished. Or that was the race, I think... Or it was 96, where Damon Hill lapped the whole field, I think. Yeah, let's put Pedro Lamy. He can go in Spinella. Who is that? He didn't start a race. He's a non-starter. It starts with L. What is his name? Oh. Sorry, chat. It will come to me in a second. I just can't... My mind has gone blank. Okay, well, this driver never started a race. One of the one of the non-starters. So, what is his name? It will come... Claudio Langes. Yes, that's who it is. Claudio Langes. Okay, yeah. Never started a race. Yeah. Never qualified, non-starter. Yeah. That's the one. Cucumber for Claudio Langes. Right. Nicola Larini. So Larini did... So Ferrari was in their Sauber. There was some Sauber Scuderia Modena as well, a year with them. He got his first podium Imola 94. Again, better in touring cars, really. Yeah. I'm thinking either Spinella or Mid. Reached Formula 1 90, failed to qualify for all 14. Eurobrune, yeah, it's the silver car. I remember the picture, the silver car at Monaco. I remember that now. Nicola Larini, yeah. So we've got Mid, Spinella. He got Ferrari in a bit of trouble because he wiped out Senna at Okayama, and then he basically ended up accidentally told everyone that they'd been using traction control when they weren't supposed to or something. Mid, Spinella Mid. But I'm most saying Mid. I mean, that feels a little generous. We've got quite a few drivers in Spinella now. Mid, Spinella. Yeah, let's put him in Mid. I think Nicola Larini. Right, Giovanni Lavaggi. So he, again, pretty old. I mean, he made his debut when he was like 35 or something. So one of the oldest rookies in Formula One from like after the 1950s. Yeah, really, really slow. Only did like 4 races. Just absolutely nowhere. Literal pay driver. So we've got pay driver, goat, pay driver. He's not good enough for pay driver in this. Cucumber. I think I have to put Lavaggi in. Did he? Oh, there was Minardi as well, but again, that wasn't very good. His couple of races with Minardi, and he did some kind of. It was in '96. He did some kind of like exhibition type race, and it may have won it, or he did really well in it, or something. Driving a Minardi, yeah. So yeah, we could put him in Cucumber, Giovanni Lavaggi. The F1 Indoor Trophy, yeah, I thought so, yeah. Okay, so next up is JJ Leto. His career is actually kind of shorter than I thought, because it was 94 was when it ended. I always pictured him being around longer, I think, because sometimes in my head I get him mixed up with Mika Salo. So JJ Leto... and he... Yeah, so he had it was Benetton, and he injured him, neck is testing in 94. Yeah, he got that test, he had that testing accident right at the start in 94, and then, so that year was just, he came back and wasn't ready, and that kind of messed things up. And then there was Sauber, either the year before or the year after, he was at Sauber. Was it 93? He would have debuted with Frentzen, unless that was Carl Wendlinger. Scuderia Italia. Ah, okay. 93 Sauber, yeah. Wendlinger. So yeah, I'd say the Spinella or pay driver. Maybe not pay driver, actually. Yeah, Spinella mid. Sauber was the end of 94, right? Yeah. Looking over it, I wasn't massively impressed, but with him, he was kind of hindered by his injury in 94. I think Spinella for JJ Leto would be fair enough. Put the Dallara on the podium. Scuderia Italia put at podium. But yeah, I think I'll put JJ Leto in Spinella. Right next to Lamy, as per Imola 94. Okay, Jan Magnussen. So this is someone, again, insane junior career, but just not really it when they made Formula 1. Is that video research in the tabs there? It is, yes. Lap charts and photos and everything else I need for that. Okay, so yeah, Jan Magnussen, karting world champion, British Formula 3 champion, or Formula Ford, what it was, but then drove for one race in McLaren. Stewart didn't get any points until his last race with them, and then he just got dropped by them, and it just didn't land really. So what we got? Spinalla. Yeah, I'd say Spinalla for Jan Magnussen. Okay, old Nige. Yeah, my first instinct is GOAT. I think we need somebody else. We need someone else in there, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, again, more substantial stuff in the 80s, although he finally got his title in 92. And they kept coming back and going again. And Williams, they said, had this tendency to drop people that won championships. But then he was also being he didn't like Prost beating him at Ferrari and was making a lot of demands in terms of his contract. So yeah, Nigel Mansell, he's going to go in GOAT. Okay, Tasso Marquez. So he was at Minardi, and then he was at Minardi again in 2001 alongside Fernando Alonso. Yeah, just pay driver driving. I don't think he ever scored any points. I don't think it would make much difference if he did. So yeah, Tasso Marquez. What we got? Pay driver, GOAT. Yeah, let's just put Marquez. He can just go in pay driver, I think. Pierluigi Martini, right? Mr. Minardi. That's not his nickname, but I've just made that up for him because he drove like almost his entire career with them, and he scored almost half of all the points that they accrued in their entire time in Formula One. So he's pretty synonymous with Minardi. Yeah, like he's been again. He kind of faltered a little towards the end, like 94, 95, but before that was still driving strongly. He got them on the front row at Phoenix in 1990, and started, ignoring blue flags a lot and everything. So we've got Torpedo mid. Never brought the fight to the front. Yeah, I think maybe Torpedo is a fair one for Martini. He's ranked somewhere in the 20s on the list, I think. So yeah, I'll put Pierluigi Martini. He can go in Torpedo. Right, Black Stig, aka Perry McCarthy. So he's another victim of Andrea Moda and Andrea Sassetti. It's hard to give him a fair shot because he was treated so unfairly, because they just did not, the team just didn't want him at all, and they put him like things like dry track on wet tires, and then they swapped out the steering rack from Moreno's car because they knew it was broken and gave it to him, which that counts as I think if that had he crashed and died at Spa, I think the team would have probably been charged with like manslaughter or involuntary manslaughter. It would have been a massive court case. Yeah, very unfairly treated. It's just like pay driver. Yeah, he did some testing with Benetton and Williams as well, so he got to drive some good cars from time to time. Yeah, Cucumber seems a little bit unfair, I guess, just because of the circumstances. So maybe out of generosity, I'll put him in pay driver. Okay. Stefano Modena. I always get him mixed up with Roberto Moreno, and I got them mixed up in somewhere in the video as well, saying he drove for Brabham or Moreno did or something. And yeah, he was actually quite strong a lot of the time. He got a handful of podiums, running at the front a lot. So I'm feeling, my mind is thinking either mid or torpedo. So I'm just trying to, yeah. I can't remember what teams he drove for, again. Based off the overalls he's wearing there, I'm wondering if that's Tyrrell. Great highs, but it closed quickly. Torpedo mid. I think I could throw him in torpedo, to be honest. Yeah. I think yeah, Stefano Modena, he can go in torpedo. Okay, Andrea Montemini. So he was at was it Pacific or was it it was Pacific in 1995. He almost drove he joined Simtech to replace Ratzenberger and then had his crash in quali at Barcelona and broke his ankles and had to sit out the year. Simtech far better than Delétraz and all the other drivers, and then he did some driving with Minardi as well, and then he got test drive with MasterCard Lola but never drove the car. I would say Cucumber. I think pay driver you could put him in because like he was much better than his teammates by and large. And yeah, just did 40, not Minardi, yeah, 40, that's it. That horrible ugly yellow car. Yeah, let's put him in pay driver because he's, back marker driver, but not like totally useless. Okay, Gianni Morbidelli. This is a name I knew as a kid from TOCA touring cars, but I didn't know he was in F1 as well originally. So there was Footwork, Ferrari, and Sauber were all in there. And he got his first podium, Australia 95. He injured himself twice during 97 and had it, which did not help his cause. But then he also took sabbaticals to do Italian touring cars as well. Him and Fittipaldi were excellent in 94. The car's fragile. Confusing him with Tarquini. Yeah, I do too, to be honest. Italian touring car drivers in F1 as well. And yeah, Gianni Morbidelli. I'd say my first thought mid, potential torpedo. Spinella. What is this? Oh, that's there's that video from, because he when he was being interviewed after Adelaide, and he said that he could smell oil burning from the car in front. He was just like, "What is this?" Wondering if his own car was gonna break down. Mid or torpedo for Morbidelli. What we got? So we got mid, Spinella, mid. I think mid for Gianni Morbidelli. Right, Mr. Super Sub Roberto Moreno. So he had, again, touch and go with a lot of teams. He had his year with Benetton in 1991, and again was driving pretty well. And then Schumacher came along and he got kicked out. And then again, Andrea Moda became a thing, and he basically he said, "I'll drive for you, but if you give me $10,000 in cash, and I'll drive that car." He actually qualified it, so that's a GOAT moment on its own. I think getting it to start a race. He qualified. He didn't even qualify last. He actually beat other drivers once he got to the qualifying stage. And then a year with 40 as well. So mid. I think a mid minimum. just on the cusp of Torpedo. Spinella. Managing to drive for pretty much every single backmarker team is worthy of GOAT status. Yeah. Look at it. Who's in Torpedo? Jesus, Herbert Irvine. Sorry, just tuned in. Can you show all the tiers? Okay. I at the end, when we've completed it, I'll read out who's in which one. But yeah, the tiers. It's GOAT, not bad for a number 2 driver. Torpedo, Mid, Spinella, Pay Driver, and then Cucumber. Which are the same ones I used for the 2010s videos. Hit F11, go full screen. Oh, maybe I should actually. Yeah, What will that do? Oh, that's better. I'm really technologically illiterate. Actually, so yeah, this is much better. Thank you. Okay, Roberto Moreno. Yeah, I think Spinella. I don't know about Spinella, to be honest. I think mid, like Andrea Moda alone, Monaco. I think I'll put Roberto Moreno in mid. Right, Satoru Nakajima. So he predominantly 1980s. Obviously Senna's teammate in 1987. Had absolutely nothing on him, but then it's Senna. So he, again, midfield in the 90s, handful of points. Yeah, kind of mid Spinella. For Nakajima. Again, my mind. I'm gonna say Tyrrell based on the overalls, even though I can't remember. Drove very good cars considering his average driving. Yeah, my first instinct is Spinella, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I'll put Satoru Nakajima. He can go in Spinella. I think that's probably where I put Kazuki as well. For the 2000s. Okay. Next up is Shinji Nakano. So he was at Minardi in 1997, or possibly 8, or possibly both. Yeah, so Shinji Nakano, a couple of years of Minardi, kind of in the middle, just all right. Better than Takagi, I think. Not as good as Kasiyama. Prost, then Minardi. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, Prost then Minardi. I don't remember if he got any points ever. Maybe just one. Because in '98 he would have been alongside Esteban Tuero, and I think he was by and large the better of the two. 2 points, right? Okay, yeah. So yeah, 2 points for Prost. Yeah, okay. So my first thought is Spinella, either Spinella or Pay Driver. Yeah, maybe Pay Driver for Shinji Nakano, I think. Shinji getting the Minardi. I need to. Yeah, I don't know that quote, but I'm guessing. Yeah, I'll need to look up what that was about. Yeah, so I'll put Nakano in Pay Driver. Okay, Alessandro Nannini. So he, again, mostly 80s driver. Benetton famously got his first win in Suzuka 1989, thanks to Senna and Prost. But then obviously he had that helicopter crash, lost his right arm, and so couldn't race anymore. But, was driving all right in that Benetton. Got a few podiums. Yeah. So, my first thought is Torpedo. Number 2 is a bit too generous, I think, for Nannini. Torpedo for his very short stint, mid. Yeah, I think I'll put him in Torpedo, I think. Nannini. Right. Emanuele Naspetti. He drove for March, or Leighton House, whatever they were called at the time. Only did a handful of races. Another pay driver, didn't do too well and got dropped when his money ran out. So maybe just pay driver. And Jordan for one race. Right. Naspetti at Jordan. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think he's just a pay driver. So I'll put him there. Okay. Hideki Noda. So father of the aforementioned Juju Noda from earlier on. He did 3 races, and he failed to finish any of them. Although they will, I think there was 1 accident and then 2 breakdowns. With Larousse, apparently. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, that would be end of 93 or 4. Not one of those. It was the final 3 races of one of those 2 years, because 94 was Larousse's final year. Wipe the floor with Delétraz. Yeah, I mean, that's not saying much. In 94. End of 94. Maybe just pay driver. I mean, his results look worse than they are because it was breakdowns. But, yeah. I love the guy who drove for Ferrari in 2009 for 2 races. That was Luca Badoer. Yeah, that was an interesting comeback, I think. And yeah, yes, he is Juju Noda's father. So yeah, let's put Hideki Noda in pay driver. Right, Olivier Parnis. So another, obviously famous Monaco win in 96. He was really doing well in 97 until he had the crash and broke his legs. And I don't think he could have mounted a title challenge without that, but he wouldn't have been far off in 97. And he was just generally good before that. Certainly, number 2, yeah, high torpedo, number 2. Yeah, I mean, the Prost was just such an awful car in 98 and 99. He really struggled. Most Sane Torpedo, I feel like putting him in number 2, but then I'm kind of putting him in line with Damon Hill, which doesn't really ring right with me. Only a couple are saying, yeah. Brundle freaked out qualified him, Ligier. I think, yeah, well, this is not a police state, obviously. Everyone's saying Torpedo, so I think, yeah, we'll put him in Torpedo. Okay, Max Papis, or Massimiliano, the full name, something, I can't remember what it is exactly. So Larousse, 90, not Larousse, Footwork, 95, 7 races. Something went wrong in almost every race for him, either his fault or just mechanical problems, so he didn't really get a fair run at it. And it just, I think he knew it just wasn't working. And then married his way into the Fittipaldi family. So my first, I'm thinking Spinella off the bat. Yeah. I don't think mid. It's just because the driving, didn't he? He caused a pile up at in Monza in '95, because I think at the start he caught dust put down by Coulthard and then triggered a massive pile up at the Ascari chicane or something, and he got out qualified by Inoue apparently as well. Yeah, let's put Papis. He can go in Spinella, I think. Right. Okay. Riccardo Patrese. Amazing driver in the 1980s. Again, tail end of his career, 90s. And honestly, like, good but not great, I think, to be honest, because he drove, like, the 92 car was, again, one of the best F1 cars ever made. He drove it perfectly well, just not nearly as well as Mansell. Benetton, he didn't do anywhere near as well as Schumacher. But he was so experienced. He didn't really often make mistakes. He didn't have big crashes. He just didn't do so well as his teammates, and he was against very good teammates. Boutsen, Mansell, and then Schumacher. I think he might be wrong. I think he won the Poly Battle with Mansell in '91. Yeah, quite possibly. So it's either number 2 or Torpedo. I'm mostly seeing number 2s, so I think I'll put him. Yeah, excuse me. Patrese can go number 2, I think. Nelson Piquet. Okay, another one broadly analogous. Big, great driver in the 80s, tail end in the 90s. Benetton, still a few races that won a couple of races. Called it quits at the end of 91. By which point he was 40 years old. Yeah. He's in a similar kind of position to Patrese, I think. Just a little bit earlier. So we got Torpedo, number 2. Yeah, he won the last 2 races, and that was when he jumped, I think, from 7th to 3rd in the standings off of that. Goat in the 80s, number 2 in the 90s. I'll put him in number 2, PK. Right. Emanuele Pirro. He was at Scuderia Italia. And maybe it was just Scuderia Italia. I think. Got a couple of... There was some podiums. Again, quite solid. His career ended maybe before it needed to, but he was driving cars that broke down all the time. Superb touring car, sports car wasn't amazing in F1. Yeah, again, so he's another one of these guys that's just done everything. I mean, he won Le Mans 6 times, and he's done touring cars, and he's just he's gotten around a lot, certainly. Has Emanuele Pirro. So I think mid is my first thought. A potential Torpedo. What we got in here? Mid, Spinella, Torpedo. Who and Torpedo? Just thinking about alongside like Martini, Modena, Parnis, Torpedo. Spinella, Torpedo, Spinella. Seeing a lot of Spinellas. I don't know about Spinella myself, because he did only score 1 point. I mean, there was I think it was 91. The Scuderia Italia was that was the year where they had to do pre-qualifying for the first half of the season. But then he also there was 1 year where they were really, really good in testing, and then before the season, and then the car just didn't really have it afterwards because it was breaking down all the time. Torpedo, Spinella, Torpedo. Maybe I should just go. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of Torpedo, Spinella, so maybe I should just meet in the middle and put him in mid. I think. So I'll put Pirro in mid. Definitely didn't score podiums. Yeah, I'm getting him confused with. I'm probably getting it confused with Leighton House somehow. Okay. Alain Prost. So again, the benchmark here is GOAT. Most of his best driving was in the 80s. Yeah, the Ferrari, he didn't have the best time with them. But, you know, again, amazing 93. What makes 93 all the better is that he actually did not like that car. Like, he said it was really hard to drive because the active suspension was very temperamental and used to change a lot and made it very hard to control. And yet he still, like, absolutely annihilated everyone else. And it's Prost, so it's going to be GOAT. So, yeah. Okay, the late Roland Ratzenberger. So yeah, there's very little to work with here. So he failed to qualify into Lagos. He did at Okayama and finished in last, and he then died at Imola. So yeah, obviously very short career. He'd won Le Mans before that. Yeah, and it's again there's a lack of data. Mid, I think mid is maybe a little generous, but it's just so hard to say because it was such a short career and in a really really bad car. I mean, the only thing you can say objectively is that he was outqualified by David Brabham at both races. You need to make a new tier at the bottom with everyone down as his, so only Schumacher goes in GOAT. Nice. I maybe should have made more tiers. I didn't think it would be this hard with some of the drivers. Spinella is getting very congested now. Yeah, I think, okay, well, if he was in mid, I mean, obviously, David Bram's there as well, and he was slower. I think maybe just pay driver, because we can't say, okay, he was objectively terrible because he did a whole season and did that or whatever. So yeah, like I think we can put Roland Ratzenberger in pay driver. Okay, Ricardo Tossa. Yeah. Either pay driver or cucumber. Maybe has a bit too much staying power to be in cucumber because he had his time with footwork. And then with Tyrrell, and he loved to blame the team or other drivers when things were going badly, or when he was making mistakes, and then he did, and then there was MasterCard Lola, and that flopped very quickly. Takagi destroyed him in 98, which says it all. Yeah, I think so. Cucumber. I'm seeing a mixture of pay and cucumber. His lack of accountability in that sense makes him cucumber. Yeah, I was thinking that as well, as he had a little bit of an attitude problem. I mean, he had that nickname for a reason. I mean, 96, he was outqualified by Verstappen at every single race. Did get a few top 10 finishes, no points though. Yeah, I'll just put him in cucumber. I think Rosset. Right, Mika Salo. So he was just run of the midfielder, and then he joins Ferrari, and it's not the best considering it's a Ferrari. I mean, okay, he could have won at Germany, but then he had team orders. They had to give it to Eddie. He had some real stinkers where he was finishing like 15th or 16th in that car, but then, beat Eddie Irvine at Monza. Salo mid. Yeah, everybody's saying mid. Where's Moreno? Moreno's in mid. Was it Tyrrell? It was Tyrrell before that. Yeah, I remember now. The mild 7 alongside. There was Arrows, the Black Arrows. Of course, I shared the picture on Twitter yesterday. The Black Arrows before that, and then it was, I think it was Tyrrell at the same time as Katayama in '95. Yeah. Monaco specialist. Yeah, that's the thing. He was very good at Monaco. Like, he always did well there. It was interesting. Like, every time it was like Eddie Irvine. Again, just always really good at Monaco. Salo almost won a race. Yeah, it was at Germany in '99, but he was team orders. They told Eddie Irvine him to give the win up to Eddie Irvine because he was fighting for the championship. Yeah, so everyone said mid, so I think mid for Mika Salo. Okay, Stefan Sarrazin. So he was a test driver for Prost, and then he did one race for Monaco for Minardi in 1999 at Interlagos, covering for Luca Badoer, and qualified well, and then he had a massive crash in the race, and then just never raced again. In Formula One. So yeah, you could say pay driver for the good qualifying and the fact that he was running ahead of Marc Gené, and then cucumber for the crash. So it's one of those two, I think. So you got Spinella, Pay, cucumber, Pay, Spinella was promised to drive for Prost next year. Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, yeah. It seemed a bit odd when I was thinking, okay, he was a test driver for Prost, and then he goes and does a race with Minardi. That seems a bit strange. And he was with them for a couple of years as well, so you think they would have given him a seat eventually, but then I guess they sucked up Alesi and Heidfeld. Cucumber. Mazzacane had more money, so got the seat, yeah. That's at Minardi. 2000, yeah. Also Marc Gené. Not driving a Prost is actually a good thing. Yeah, Prost, the team, is just depressing. Like, just how bad their cars could be. And they started so strongly when they had a car that was a Ligier, actually. And then they build their own ones and it just goes to shit. I think pay driver, to be honest. I mean, it was only one race, crashed, it happens. But, he was doing all right before that. Is Frentzen rated already? He is. Frentzen is in not bad for a number 2 driver. So I'm going alphabetically and we're near the end now. Okay. Domenico Schiattarella. Nice word salad of a name. Another pay driver. Simtech 1995. Only a couple of races. And then... beaten by Verstappen in each of them. Didn't do much. Yeah. Maybe a new tier in the 1980s for one race start. Yeah, maybe that's better. I'll need to see. It depends. I haven't done any preliminary research on the 80s yet, but I guess I need to find out how many drivers there are. I'm really hoping it's fewer than 100 so that the video isn't 3 hours long. But yeah, I'll have to... things get a bit more complicated the further you go back. So Domenico Schiattarella, pay driver, pay, cucumber. I think pay because, he was slow and backmark a car, but he wasn't crashing a lot and making famous mistakes. He was just, yeah. So I think pay driver for Domenico Schiattarella. Right, Bernd Schneider. So he drove at Zakspeed in 1989, and then in 1990 it was Onyx, I think. It was either Onyx or Real, one of the two, and only did 2 races and failed to qualify for one of them. Before that, he'd won Interserie, which I think was what they used to call DTM, possibly, or it was something analogous to that. Amazing in touring cars and sports cars, but forgettable in F1. Goat for DTM, pay driver in F1. Yeah. Yeah, DTM legend. Yeah, his F1, there wasn't much to it, to be honest. 2 races, obviously good driver in general. Maybe just pay driver. European Can-Am. Okay, that's what Interserie was. Okay. Right. So a couple of Spinalas. He only did 2 races, though, and failed to qualify for one of them, I think. Yeah, I'll put him in pay. Bert Schneider. Right, Michael. How much goat can we, or how high can we put goat? The goat cheat tier. Yeah. So it's interesting because in the comments for the ranking video, I had an equally large number of people saying thank you for putting Senna number 1, and then also other people saying why isn't Schumacher number 1. The reason Schumacher is not ranked number 1 is because of Adelaide and Jerez. Without that, he would have been number 1 by a massive margin. Obviously, Senna has Suzuka as well, but Schumacher was doing more of that because he had those, and then he had other races like Spa 95, where he was driving erratically and having a go at Hill and that. But obviously, turn Ferrari into a fighting force again, amazingly fast, just incredibly well-rounded driver. But yeah, it's a GOAT, but he's not number 1 on the main list because of his attempts to, just punt other drivers off the track, basically. Okay, Ralph. So Ralph is Jordan and Williams. So this is again very good starts. I mean, he got a podium in only his 3rd race, but him and Fisichella came to blows a few times. He wasn't a fan of being told he wasn't allowed to win Spa 98. 99 was a good year, not a good car, much better than Zanardi. So yeah, we'll put him in number 2, I think, for Ralph. Oh, we're getting near the end now. I was worried this would go on for like 3 hours, and we're on just over 2. Near the end, making good time this time. Right, Senna. So yeah, GOAT, ranked him number 1. It's Senna. Yeah, you can't put him anywhere other than GOAT. I was umming and ahhing about putting him number 1 or number 2 because of Schumacher, and because Senna was, on paper, the results just aren't as impressive, but it helps, obviously there's fewer races. And again, he liked to be a bit argy-bargy, but he also had times, obviously, Donington 93, Interlagos 91, when he won with missing gears and that. Yeah, but yeah, he's GOAT. But yeah, it was difficult trying to decide if he was going to be 1st or 2nd when I ranked it, but I thought 1st. I didn't want to kind of go into this idea that he because he's taken on this kind of near mythic status in death. But yeah, you can't really deny it. Had he not died at Imola, I think he probably would have stayed until maybe 1997, and then maybe called it quits after that, because he would have turned his nose up at like groove tires and that. And he had been 37 years old by then as well. And maybe a couple more championships. Who knows? That we can't really say. You people would have hated him if he was still alive, just like with some other drivers that still exist. Yeah, I think he would have been. He wouldn't have got away if Twitter had existed in 1990. Just imagine Suzuka 90 plus Twitter. That would have been very interesting. Okay, Vincenzo Sospiri. So he, again, non-starter, MasterCard Lola. He won the International Formula 3000 in 1995, beat Riccardo Tossa to it. And yeah, MasterCard Lola, rubbish car that was more IndyCar than Formula One car, and just never did anything else. So yeah, just cucumber probably for him. Feels a bit anticlimactic after having Senna and Schumacher and then Sospiri. And yeah, he was faster than Rossit, but it's just such a bad car. Lack of data again is the problem. Right. Okay. So next up we've got Aguri Suzuki. Now I like Suzuki because obviously I like him because of course he created Super Aguri, who's one of my favorite teams. And as a driver, he got his podium Japan 1990. He was the first Asian driver to get a podium, and that 30 years on, that is the last podium with no European drivers on it, because it was Roberto Moreno and Nelson Piquet as well. Moric destroyed him at footwork. Yeah, not the best time at footwork towards the end, and he had he shared a seat with Martin Brundle in 1995 at either Ligier or Tyrrell, one of the two. Just one of the blue midfield cars that I can never remember. But basically, because he was a Honda, backed by Honda, and they wanted him in the car. I'm thinking either Mid or Spinella. I mean, he got a video game named after him as well. That was pretty cool. LaRousse. Right, yeah, LaRousse was in there too. I'm just trying to think, where have I got... who else is... I'd put him above Mid. Yeah, I'm thinking like a low mid into a Spinella for Aguri Suzuki. That's what we got here. Mid Torpedo, LaRousse Spinella. Uguri's games got rebranded as Mansell outside of Japan. Right, okay. I think Spinella. Yeah, let's put Aguri Suzuki in Spinella. Okay. Next up is Toshio Suzuki, who, as far as I know, is not related to Aguri Suzuki. One of these ones, he joined F1 in his mid-30s, some 20 years after he'd won like Japanese Formula 4 in the mid-1970s. Didn't do... F1 wasn't brilliant, but then after that he won Formula Nippon in like 1995 when he was already in his pushing 40. 2 races in LaRousse in 93 replaced Alliot. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, he was in his he was 38, I think it was, when he debuted. And then he won Le Mans, or he won his class in Le Mans in 99 when he was 44. Maybe pay driver. Cucumber, like, he wasn't like completely useless, so yeah, I think Toshio Suzuki, he can go in pay driver. Yeah, they've been alphabetical the whole time. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, third consecutive Japanese driver, Teranosuke Takagi. So he was at Tyrrell, and then no, he was not at... He was not at Minardi, I don't think. Because Tyrrell in 97 and again in 98. Yes, because he had that crash with Esteban Tuero in Suzuka that gave Schumacher the puncture. Arrows to car. Yes, that was it. It was Arrow. It was Tyrrell and then Arrows alongside Pedro de la Rosa. That's the one. Yeah, so yeah, Spinalla we're seeing, because you can compare him. I don't know. I think maybe Pedro. I'm just trying to think because I've got like people like Shinji Nakano and okay, where's De La Rosa? Delaros is in mid and beat him. Demolished Rosset, who is in Cucumber. So I'm thinking either Spinalla or Pay Driver for Takagi. I think Pay Driver because like I've got Nakajima and Suzuki are both in Spinalla, and he was obviously not better than them. I think Pay Driver for Takagi. Right. Gabriele Tarquini, another Italian touring car legend. He, again, touring cars he was better in really than Formula One. Overalls, what is he wearing there? Is that LaRousse? Camel with the green. Right, what have we got? Tarquini Spinalla. Because Morbidelli, I think, I'd say Morbidelli was better, and I've got Morbidelli in mid. The Fond Metal in 92, and then Tyrrell, right. Yeah. Yeah, I think Tarquini can go in Spinalla. Okay. Badly cropped again, but that's Jarno Trulli. So he did 7 races of Minardi, and he then replaced Parnis at Prost and did very well. He got a podium, I think, in 97. He stayed with him in 98. Awful car. He got points at Spa, but that was it, and that was the only points they got. 99, I think he stayed again because 2000, it was either 2000 2001 was when he moved to Jordan. So we're seeing Torpedo, nearly won a race in rookie season. Yeah, he finished second, and I can't remember the circuit now. Maybe it was Austria, but yeah. Because if you compare him, you can compare him broadly to Fisichella because they started around a similar time and similar types of cars. 99 podium for Prot. Yeah, Nürburgring. Yeah, not Austria. Yeah, I'll put Trulli. Trulli can go in Torpedo. Behind Herbert, 99. Yeah. Oh yeah, the crazy race. Yeah. Okay, next up is Esteban Tuero. Really young driver. So he's the youngest. So the oldest driver on this list is PK, who is 26 years older than Tuero. He was only 19 when he debuted in 1998. So again, Minardi broke down a lot. Wasn't not a great car. Drove all right, I guess. I mean, compared to Nakano, it was, touch and go. And then, he crashed at the end and injured himself with Takagi, and then retired just when he was going to come back and race for them again in 99 and just gave up on F1. So we're seeing Spinalla. Cucumber is a bit unfair for him, so I'm thinking Pay Driver or possibly Spinalla. Seeing chat seems to have stopped, so Pay. I think I'll put him in Pay. I mean, he was similar. He was kind of competing a lot with Takagi in a different team, but yeah. So put Tuero in Pay Driver. Right. Eric van der Poel. He did. Scuderia Modena was in there. Born the same year as Kimi. He really is the same age as Kimi. That is crazy. So he could have, if he'd been good enough, he could have raced in Formula One until like only a couple of years ago. Tuero. So Eric van der Poel. There was a Scuderia Modena, and he qualified for one race, but almost scored a point. Came very, very close to scoring a point. And then he was at Brabham as well. Yeah, Brabham, that's it. He had a tendency to join teams that folded, because he joined Brabham and then they then folded, and then he moved to, I think, Fond Metal, and they then folded as well. But his driving wasn't terrible. The thing is, I knew his name before I was watching Formula 1, and I can't remember if it's because he was big in Le Mans or something, but I think he did some stuff outside of F1 that was half notable. Fond Metal, yeah, not whatever I said. Unless it was Fond Metal. So, yeah, Eric van der Poel, maybe just pay driver, to be honest, I think. He nearly got 5th in that modder, but retired. Yeah, he was literally within sight of the finish line, and then it died, and he dropped to 7th or 8th. Yeah, let's put him in pay driver. Okay, Jos the Boss. He's an interesting one. I feel like there's kind of conflicting, like, his driving, it was sometimes good, but mostly kind of awful. Like, he benefited from driving for a lot of pretty crap teams, and that made it look better, I think. But Benetton, that really, really was not a good year for him. It's like so many accidents in '94. But once he left them, like, he drove all right. Like, he beat, because he beat Sciazzarella, he beat Riccardo Tossa, and then he was at Arrows, or Stewart. He joined them, and then he was going to go to Honda. He's one of these guys that just, like, a bit of a village bicycle that just drove for every team imaginable. I mean, it comes up, like, on Twitter. It's like every week there's a new team that he was connected to in the 90s or that he tested with. So we've got better than Leto in the Benetton, great in Simtech, come to beat Rosset. That's going to be mid. Yeah, I think mid. I mean, I would say Torpedo because he crashed a lot, but he just wasn't fast enough for that. So, yeah, Verstappen, he can go in mid. Okay, next up is Jacques Villeneuve. So the base for this is GOAT. On the basis he's a champion, but, 96, 97, both really, really good years. I mean, that was a hell of a debut in 96 when he got pole and almost won the race. The musician. 90 obviously won the championship 97, Williams, considering, I mean, I think you can give him a bit of slack considering that the car was not really that good. It wasn't good enough to win races in 98. 99, again, the BAR was just so bad, like fast but never worked. And then he and Ricardo Zonta had that famous dare at Spa to try and go through Eau Rouge flat out, and both of them crashed. One hit wonder. It's weird it's just depressing when you look at him in the 2000s, because he's just driving around in the midfield, not doing much, and you're like, did this guy really win a championship? Like, yeah. So I'm seeing a few GOATs, a few number 2s. Yeah, he outstayed his welcome in the 2000s. Yeah, it wasn't the best. I think because I put Damon in number 2, and I think I could do the same with Jacques, to be honest. Yeah, he may be a champion, but he's not a GOAT, so we'll put him in number 2. Right. Oh, only 5 drivers left. Right, Derek Warwick. Again, another name I mostly knew from touring cars, from BTCC. So again, mostly the 80s. He drove, some pretty good cars, and at Lotus, Senna stopped him joining Lotus because he was threatened by him. In 1986 or 87, he was at Lotus in 1990 alongside Martin Donnelly. Was doing pretty good. Very experienced driver. Pretty dogged as well. And then he did Footwork couple of years after that. And it just, it was just, again, not good cars, but he knew what he was doing because he was so experienced. So I think what we got, Torpedo, maybe just Torpedo. Everyone's still chatting about Jacques Villeneuve in the chat, but let's put him. Yeah, Derek Warwick. I'll put him in Torpedo. Okay, Karl Wendlinger. So he was a Sauber. He was with a Mercedes like factory driver in sports cars alongside Schumacher and Frentzen and a few others. And then did. So he joined with Sauber. 94, he had his crash at Monaco and ended up comatose for several weeks. 95, he comes back, he drives for Sauber, and it's just not clicking. And it just doesn't, and then his career just kind of deflates completely. So mid or Spinella probably for Wendlinger. One person said goat, but if you compare him to someone like Fittipaldi, Fittipaldi's in mid, or someone like JJ Leto, I don't know, who is in Spinella. It's the kind of thing, I think his post-coma driving kind of drops him into Spinella, but that's maybe not entirely his fault, because it's like Massa. Like, Felipe Massa, he was not the same after Hungary 2009. Like, he just, And I think it does affect you when you have such a serious injury like that, in terms of recovery. So, what, mid Spinella, Wendlinger's better than Leto. Torpedo... Yeah, I think mid, for Wendlinger. So then we've got Alexander Wurz. He, very good debut. So he covered for Gerhard Berger at Benetton in 1997. Got a podium in one of those three races, so it's pretty good. 98, he manages to outscore Fisichella without getting any podiums, whereas Fisichella did. So very consistent. 99, he does get beaten by him, but is still pretty good. It was after that where it kind of unraveled a little bit, and then he ended up doing more testing than racing. So Wurz sort of seeing Torpedo mid. If I compare him, well, let's look at where Fisichella is in. Fisichella's in number 2. He's got someone that most people are saying mid. I think Torpedo is there's a case to put him in Torpedo, but I'm not so sure, to be honest. Everyone's saying mid, so I think we can put him in mid. All right, only 2 drivers left now. Alex Zanardi. So he had stints of Lotus, and again he had a couple of big crashes that he got injuries from in the early 90s before his big crash after Formula 1. So he was really struggling. I remember him saying, like, on Beyond the Grid, he was just running around desperately trying to find a seat in 93 or 94. And then couple of big crashes. Then Williams 99 really wasn't good because he'd won IndyCar, and then he comes back and now they've got groove tires and the car itself is not brilliant anyway, and he doesn't score a single point even though Ralf Schumacher scores like 30 odd. So we got mid Spinella mid, Spinella. Yeah, because I think he did score some points, maybe only 1 or 2, but I think you would say mid until Williams came along, because he was just so below par. But a lot of people are saying mid. who just thinking about the other drivers in mid. If I was doing Spinella, it's alongside like Andretti and Leto and that. I could put him above Diniz, and he's in Spinella. Maybe I'll put Zanardi. He could go in mid, I suppose. Yeah. Right, last driver is Ricardo Zonta. So another one who joined in 1999. He was at BAR. He crashed at. He injured himself. He broke his wrist in a crash in maybe either Argentina, I think, or Interlagos. Missed a few races. Scored no points because the car never worked. He obviously crashed. He did that dare with Villeneuve and crashed at Eau Rouge. He just didn't do much, really. It's again, if you compare him, like if you put him in the same category as like De La Rosa and Gené, because they were the other two new drivers in '99 that then did stuff afterwards, and became predominantly test drivers actually as well. You could put them in their own little category. And I put De La Rosa mid and Gené Spinella. So, good evening, greetings from Brazil. Good evening. Yeah, sorry you've had to join in right at the end. I've got to the very last driver, unfortunately. But yeah, this'll stay public after the stream is ended, so people can watch it again. He's doing very well in Brazilian stock car. Yeah, it's he's doing. He's one of these drivers who's done better domestically than Formula One. And again, his Formula One career was mostly testing, not a huge amount of racing, really. So what is everyone? It's mostly Spinella. So yeah, I think Spinella for Ricardo Zonta. So, right, there it is. So I'll just do a quick, as I did with the other two, I'll do a summary and just read out who is in what place for everyone. So in GOAT, we have Mika Hakkinen, Nigel Mansell, Alain Prost, Michael Schumacher, and Ayrton Senna. Not bad for a number 2 driver. Jean Lacey, Rubens Barrichello, Gerhard Berger, Martin Brundle, David Coulthard, Giancarlo Fisichella, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Damon Hill, Riccardo Patrese, Nelson Piquet, Ralf Schumacher, and Jacques Villeneuve. In Torpedo, we have Mark Blundell, Thierry Boutsen, Ivan Capelli, Andrea de Cesaris, Johnny Herbert, Eddie Irvine, Pierluigi Martini, Stefano Modena, Alessandro Nannini, Olivier Panis, Jarno Trulli, and Derek Warwick. In mid, we have Michele Alboreto, Luca Badoer, Éric Bernard, David Brabham, Érik Comas, Pedro de la Rosa, Martin Donnelly, Christian Fittipaldi, Bertrand Gachot, Maurício Gugelmin, Ukyo Katayama, Nicola Larini, Gianni Morbidelli, Roberto Moreno, Emanuele Pirro, Mika Salo, Jos Verstappen, Carl Wendlinger, Alex Wirtz, and Alex Zanardi. In Spinella is Philippe Alliot, Michael Andretti, Fabrizio Barbazza, Olivier Beretta, Jean-Christophe Boullion, Alex Caffey, Yannick Dalmas, Pedro Diniz, Marc Gené, Jean-Marc Gounon, Olivier Grouillard, Stefan Johansson, Jan Lammers, Pedro Lamy, JJ Leto, Satoru Nakajima, Jan Magnussen, Max Papis, Aguri Suzuki, Gabriele Tarquini, and Ricardo Zonta. In pay driver, it is Marco Apicella, Gregor Foitek, Norberto Fontana, Bruno Giacomelli, Frank Lagorce, Tasso Marquez, Perry McCarthy, Andrea Montemini, Shinji Nakano, Emanuele Nespetti, Hideki Noda, Roland Ratzenberger, Stefan Sarazin, Domenico Schiaparella, Bernd Schneider, Toshio Suzuki, Teranosuke Takagi, Esteban Tuero, Eric van der Poel. And then in Cucumber is Philippe Adams, Giovanna Amati, Julian Bailey, Paolo Barilla, Paul Belmondo, Michael Bartels, Enrico Bertaggia, Gary Brabham, Pedro Chaves, Andrea Chiesa, Jean-Denis Delétraz, My mind's gone blank. Naoki Hattori, Taki Inoue. My mind's gone blank again. Claudio Langes, Giovanni Lavaggi, Riccardo Rossit, and Vincenzo Sospiri. Yeah, that is a lot of drivers. And a lot of very forgettable ones as well. Okay. So yeah, I'll save this, put it on Twitter, see what anyone who didn't tune in makes of it. Yeah, so obviously whenever I get around to do my next ranking, I mean, at some point with tier list, maybe I should do the cars, but that might get a bit monotonous when it's like, oh, compare all the Force Indias into 2010 when they're all or something, I don't know. Yeah, I'll call that a day there. Maybe I'll do more live streams just generally chatting or finding something different to do. So I've at least got semi-regular uploads. So yeah, I'll F11's not going to take me out. Okay, good, yeah. The 90s Racing Games, a tier list. I haven't actually played that many of the F1 games from that time. I've played the more recent ones. Certainly, I wanted to do one thing I might do for ranking. I was thinking of doing it for races, possibly by season, because I think by decade is a bit excessive because there's like 200 or more in a decade. But yeah, I've got a ton of ideas, and obviously, if anyone ever wants to give me ideas for videos, you can just drop me a DM on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. So yeah, I'll sign off there, and thanks for tuning in, and I'll see everyone around.